this evening here looking at the golf course and the stars. Hello, Sir Travis.
Sí, yo soy Travis. Me llamo Travis.
Sí. Trav Spaniel.
It's Russian. It's Travish. I speak. Yeah, it's so crazy because I've been spending the last couple of years like studying Russian and learning Russian, and then so like I notice I'm trying to say things to people, and then I do sprinkle in Russian.
Oh, it's hilarious, like going to restaurants with you when they don't speak, you know, when they're not native English, because no matter what, you kind of accentuate what you're saying. You do this, yes.
I'm so used to talking to Eastern European people that they don't use a and the, and so I drop those, and then I try to speak as clearly as possible, because here's my problem.
But you throw the accent in there.
I speak so fast that I have to consciously slow down. And what's so funny is that this one Russian girl was like, I can understand English, you know, people who are in England. I can understand you very well, because I'm like, I speak so fast, and I'm like, does it help you when I talk like this? Does this make it easier for you?
I talk like it doesn't all the time. I don't understand you either.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So we've got a great interview with Michael Turpin today, and I'm going to give disclaimers in just a moment. But first, Sir Lord Travis is going to talk about Animoca brands.
I am going to. Yeah, so Animoca, we've talked about them many times. Everything seems they touch turns to gold. They do F1 Delta time racing. They're NFTs. You build a badass F1 racing car. Those things are going for like some of them are going for over $1 million in ETH. Like, that's insane. They have the sandbox. They've invested in Quid. We interviewed the CEO of Gamey. Like, they're doing all kinds of stuff. They have their fingers in all kinds of things. And I tell you what, they have their finger firmly pressed on NFTs. Pay attention to them, animocabrands.com. Follow them on all the socials. Pay attention to what they're doing, because they're doing things you want to know about.
By the way, you might not have heard this piece of news today, but Animoca raised $88 million in a valuation of $1 billion.
Wow.
That just happened. Well, I sent Yatsu congratulations on that.
Their agency was in the same place that Dapper Labs was created out of. They were like neighbors, and I think they sort of saw NFTs around the same time. And they're like, uh-oh, now it's on, bitches.
That's it. So, as I said, we've got a great interview with Michael Turpin that we conducted atop his penthouse suite in downtown San Juan with beautiful Caribbean Sea views from there. And this is regarding a project called bscstarter.finance, and Travis and I had the opportunity to look at this, and we were actually invited to be advisors on it. We think that they found a really interesting solution to help investors avoid the rug pulls which plague so many new projects. We'll talk about it more in this interview here. Just wanted to be transparent with you guys, as we always are. So here we go. Let's do the Talk of Tokens with Turpin. And we are hanging out on the rooftop of Michael Turpin's San Juan Residenzo. It's a beautiful day in Puerto Rico, and thanks for inviting us up.
Thanks for coming down or coming up from Las Palmas, and welcome to the island now as new Puerto Ricans. And
what did you say that you're called?
Boricua.
Boricua.
Yeah. Now again, that's got two meanings. It could be somebody who is a resident of Puerto Rico, as well as somebody who is a Puerto Rico native culturally. So, but
and a Puerto Ricano, that is somebody who is Puerto Rican Hispanic.
No, that's somebody who's from Puerto Rico, more formal.
Okay.
Boricua is you can go and get your Boricua omelet at Pinky's.
I'm gonna do it. I had food today.
This is not the first time our paths have crossed. We've spoken at your events. We've interviewed you on the show before. We've been to the Mike Tyson mansion.
Yeah, I sold my house to Michael Turpin not long ago. I didn't have any money. I was all out of my money. I was like, hey, I heard you got this crypto thing. Can you buy my house?
It was when we used to still travel and go places.
He didn't buy my tiger, though. I don't know where my tiger went. I can't find it.
We do have the tiger pit, but we're going to eventually turn that into a koi pond.
Well, dude, it's good to be here, and it's funny how our paths crossed again because we got reached out to by BSC Starter. The website is bscstarter.finance. Decentralized fundraising for Binance Smart Chain, and discovered that you're an advisor. And when they told me that, and they invited Travis and I to be advisors, after I understood a little bit about what it was, I was like, hell yeah. But rather than us tell everybody about it, maybe you could explain first, what is the problem in these fundraisers that we need a platform like BSC Starter?
Sure. So first of all, there's a couple of problems, right? The biggest problem right now is that historically, if you go back to the very earliest ICOs in 2013, they were on Bitcoin. And that was very problematic because Bitcoin didn't even have a mechanism to be able to automate the payments and then automate through a smart contract you were going to actually get something. So you had a big problem with somebody saying, hey, I'm going to do a coin, and then you send them Bitcoin, and then you never hear from them again because they disappear. And with the very first ERC20 token offering, which was Augur, which I worked on. I also worked on the ICO, which was for Bitcoin and Ethereum because they didn't have Ether yet. Obviously, that's what they raised the money to be able to make a year later. ERC20 tokens really kicked off the giant wave in 27-18 because anybody could write a smart contract if you had the technical chops and say, you put your Ether in here and you are guaranteed by this smart contract, which you then had people audit, that you would then get X amount in return, oftentimes based on the day that you put it in, the hour you put it in, etc. One problem with this now has been that Ethereum has gotten so popular that the fees and the network congestion are just to the point of ridiculousness. They're supposed to go and fix this with Ethereum 2.0, which has been a time running. There's a little meme out there where they have italics saying it's going to be 2 years from now, and he's got, old gray hair and the beard down to the floor because it's been 2 years for a while. Hopefully now it really is 2 years from now, and we actually have, we got Berlin, which is the first step toward, they call it Serenity.
Are we still 2 years out, like now?
Nobody knows for sure.
That's the joke, Joel.
This is April of 2021 that we're doing this interview.
Correct.
And so nobody knows.
I believe they're projecting now that they'll have it by the end of 2022, so it'll be 1 year and change out. The final version is called Serenity for the obvious reasons. You've gone through all these cleverly named things, Frontier, Homeland, I don't know, they probably had a one in the last couple of years that could have just been called Clusterfuck 8 or something.
It's like, hurry the hell up. All right, we need Serenity now. It's Serenity.
Right now we're in Berlin. I'm not sure if that's Berlin, East Berlin or West Berlin, but it's hopefully transitional. But at any rate, what that has done is provide a sizable opportunity for the smart people at Binance and Binance BNB, which you could have bought Binance as just a network token for its only initial use case was sort of being able to get a discount on their exchange. When Bitcoin topped out in December of 2017, instead of turning your Bitcoin into US dollars, you could have turned them into BNB tokens for $5 a piece from your $19,300, and obviously would have done quite well because they're between $550 and $600.
Yeah, I think it's past $600 today.
It's been flirting with 600. There's a lot of people think it's going to go to 1,000. Depends again on how long it takes for us to get to Serenity, because Binance has created a second flavor of BNB. It runs on different contracts, and you actually have to convert it. So the BNB coin that you get, it's a drag that some place will only sell you BNB. If you're an American, there's very few exchanges that will even sell it to you. And then they don't want to sell you Binance Smart Chain, they want to sell you BNB. So you have to go in, take BNB in, then convert it to BSC, then send the BSC through MetaMask, and and then use MetaMask for a crowd sale. And that's 4 sets of fees. Now, of course, if it was Ethereum, you would probably be out of all the coins you started with after 4 transactions. But at least with BSC, it used to be pennies. Now it's sometimes dollars. So, all of these, kind of vehicles have the problem if they have gas at all, and it's based on the price of the coin and the network congestion, they then get to a point when then people switch to other chains. Obviously, there's some other instances. I mean, Telos is a fork of EOS that is no gas. There's some other ones that are no gas. I'm associated with a company that I helped found called Aspire that's I think 1 million transactions for a little over $1. So it's, there's other ones that are low gas and no gas. And, I remember telling people when they were pivoting from Bitcoin to Ethereum for the low gas fees back when it was pennies for Ethereum. Little I know I'd be then telling them to pivot to something else a few years later. So
Right.
you have to watch, as Wayne Gretzky says, where the puck is going.
That's exactly what you have to do. All the time you have to watch where the puck is going. Now, one of the things that really got us on BSC Starter was the fact that on Binance and on a lot of these crowdfund raising platforms, there's a lot of rug pulls. There's a lot of times where, oh, hey, here's our new coin, and then you put money into it, and all of a sudden, now it's gone, right? And so how does BSC Starter sort of eliminate that problem?
Yeah, so it's actually a brilliant combination of two things. First of all, it's completely community driven as opposed to the head of the platform picks the coins, and it's all voted up or down. You go in and you vote up or down, with your start tokens, and there's right now I think 100 different proposed coins, and literally they've only been out for 2 months. And they did their own community-driven starter on their own platform to sort of like eat their own dog food, and it went from I think it was $1.25 or something at the opening, and it's been as high as like almost $50, and now it's somewhere in the 20s or something like that. So they
launched their start token on their own platform.
They did. They ate their own dog food, and they.
I thought they've up-leveled that to you drink your own champagne.
That too. It just takes a little bit more work.
So, how can this still be gamed though? Because if people are voting.
Well, hold on. I was going to say there's part two. Part two is they have a group called the Rug Doctors who go in and do their own of the ones that are the winners. They go and they do an analysis to show that it is, a smart contract that's not going to have a rug pull. Obviously, once someone gets funding, I'd say there's still risks that somebody can go in and run away at any given time. But at least in the offering, you're going to get your tokens, and it's going to show where this is. The smart contracts are audited. Obviously, you can do a rug pull in Silicon Valley too.
Well, it's been done so many times, right? People they hype up something with no intent to ever actually deliver, but all you need is a pretty website, and some people, you make it look like it's a real thing, and whoop, there goes your money.
Yeah, but I'd say that they've got best practices of minimizing the risk of a rug pull through Rug Doctors and through the community voting.
Rug Doctors, that's great. Imagine like Googling that Rug Doctor and end up with the guy to fix your boat. Wrong guy, wrong dude. I'm looking at the site right now, and maybe we can just look at this together right
Sure.
here. So maybe explain how this works. Again, by the time you guys hear this, these will have already passed, but it could be a useful tutorial for the future. So I see in here there's Cheems.
So those are the ones that are actually active pools or about to go out. If you go under the voting one, which is the next tab over, that's the one that is actually the ones that are currently in consideration.
Here we go. So,
and you can see the number of votes on each one. So these are the ones that have actually been approved, and they will be going out. Bakery Tools, Cheems, and BitBet. And I think one actually went out today, and one went out yesterday. So they're actually getting 2 or 3 of these things out a week. And on average, the one that went out yesterday, Jumble raised 1,200 BNB in about 7 minutes.
it's nice. It's almost $600 BNB. So you do the math.
$750,000. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Man, I'll tell you, this is such an interesting time where these tokens are being created, immediately launched, and then they just take off.
And then they show up on PancakeSwap. Well, it's, the theory that's sort of developed as you're bringing the communities, this is more about the democratization of finance, right? Because in the old days, as you know, you would have to get an introduction to a prominent angel and make the deal with him, and a lot of part of it was then getting not only their money, but their, smart money, so that they would then be able to introduce you to a lawyer who would then introduce you to Sequoia Capital. And everybody
a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah. And then Sequoia, and everybody's taking their own, pound of flesh along the way. And, they have these things that you're, as a first-time entrepreneur, having to learn about, like, participating preferred, where, oh, I just sold 20% of the company. Oh, that's after you get all your money back, and then I get 20% of the company. Oh, and I still can outvote you, even though I have left shares based on certain terms and conditions, and, the Silicon Valley game.
It really takes the life out of a lot of companies.
It does, especially in down markets where they just say, fuck it, I'm not, sorry for French, but...
no,
that was not French. I understand that.
Zutador would be French.
Yeah.
That was French.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about this. We're kind of going to take a little sidestep off of BSC starter and come back to it. I want to ask you about STOs and security tokens. Because it seems to me that we're getting close. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close to the era where vulture capitalists can maybe be end around it, right? Where you do these security tokens where you say, okay, we're going to create a token, we're going to put a proportion of our revenue in this, you're going to buy the token, and as a result of that, there's going to be this pool, and you're going to get dividends or whatever back, or your token's going to be worth X amount because of that you're investing in this way, and you give up zero equity in the company, which keeps the passion and the heart of the organization.
Here's the problem. As the Who said, meet the old boss, or the new boss, same as the old boss, right? So the biggest problem with security tokens right now, which are pretty much dead in the water at the moment, is the regulators. The regulators are saying, oh, well, first of all, they for a long time have killed off a lot of the whole ICO market with this fraud because they said, oh, we think everything's a security. Well, once it's security, then they control all the rules. Oh, well, you can't get on a non-security platform. And oh, by the way, we're not allowing any of the security platforms like NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, etc., to take tokens. So you're in this gray area you've been in ever since the first security token came out in 2017.
So everybody just leaves America and goes and does it elsewhere.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because even elsewhere, all those places, once you're designated security, you tell me one successful security token. One.
You're on the spot, Trav.
Man, none.
Yeah.
I read, we actually covered this in the news on this last episode where Binance is under the gun because they did the stock token for Tesla and the other token that they did.
Germany.
So they're under the gun on that.
Yeah, so the regulators basically, are appointed by the political class who has their number one contributor class is the banks. And so, the people who are in charge right now, and this is global, not just the U.S., they don't want to go and give up their I mean, I literally was speaking at a security token conference in 2018. And I went and was talking to the head of the Toronto Stock Exchange. And he was on there saying, security tokens of the future, and we're supporting that and everything. And I was like, how soon are you going to be T0? And he's like, no time soon. The cameras are off. He's like, we don't have anybody who's the brokers that wants to give up the T3. They make money off the 3 days. And right now you have too many people who are rent seekers, who are basically... Now again, my experience has been that an entrenched business model, if both the buyer and the seller wants to disrupt it, over time it happens. But it takes a while. My classic example of it having worked, even though you thought it never could have worked, was the guys running around the pits at the New York Stock Exchange. I'll tell you, a lot of people say, oh, no, you need those guys. There's a personal relationship you need. You can never automate those guys. The way they look at you, the way they quote that bid, you need, it's gone. There's no, you now have, but I think
those are all ran by bots.
Now they're all run by bots, and I think Wall Street decided that they found another way of making money through high-frequency trading. Yeah. So if Wall Street can figure out another way of making money from it, they'll support security tokens.
Okay, so when we look at this type of thing with BSC Starter, and we look at Uniswap and Pancake, how are the regulators not eyeing this and going, wait, what kind of shenanigans are happening?
So it's a lot easier to go after something that says they're security, because then you just immediately have, say, oh, well, you said you're this and you're not that, and we're suing you immediately. With a brand new model, they're not quite sure how aggressively they want to go, because they're country by country, right? If you're the US and you say, we hate everything tokenized, and all of a sudden some of your banks have actually invested in Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin goes down, they're like, whoa, we were just getting ready to figure out how to make money on this. So they're getting a mixed message from, I don't want to necessarily necessarily say their owners, but the people who have influence over them, the big banks, of like, for a while there they were like, the meme was, well, I don't know about this Bitcoin, but I like the blockchain. Well, define the blockchain was created by Bitcoin, right? And there was this theory for a while that everything was going to be JPM coin, and it was going to be these private permission things owned by the banks. That's kind of failed. I mean, except for internal settlement. Just as it has to, because if you remember the early days of the internet, when the internet was scary, Walmart would be like, well, we couldn't possibly go on this Wild West thing called the internet. We're going to build our own thing called the Walmart intranet. You know anybody doing an intranet? Know anybody doing an intranet anymore? That's what's going to happen to these private permissioned walled gardens. It happens over and over and over again. And history, as Mark Twain says, if it doesn't repeat, it at least rhymes.
It definitely rhymes. So do we see a day where STOs? Because I mean, I've always sort of thought, man, if I could take my Google stock and I could do DeFi off of that, right off of my Google stock, my Apple stock,
well, as usual,
that would be amazing.
As usual, Travis, you're thinking 10 years ahead of the regulators. So I think it will be inevitable, but I think we're probably 5 years away from the simplicity and 10 years away from the ultimate, which is still a short time in terms of how regulators think.
Right.
So part of what you're saying when we're talking about the banks now having a stake, as they're figuring out Bitcoin, are we past the point of no return that we should be concerned about the U.S. government or any of the Western world governments making Bitcoin illegal?
I personally think so, but there are still people willing to take that stance. Certainly, Dr. Doom repeatedly says, I'll do my Dr. Doom
Dr.
impression.
Fauci?
No. Nouriel Rubini, the guy's been saying Bitcoin is the mother of all scams ever since 2013. You should short it.
I thought that was funny.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I thought you were being serious for a minute there.
Me? Serious?
Yeah. I will give you the my Dr. Doom impression. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Bullshit.
It's bullshit. So I was actually speaking at the crypto cruise in 2019, and they had a standoff.
The Mediterranean one?
The Mediterranean.
Oh, that was so nice.
Yeah. And they had a kind of battle between Dr. Doom and Tone Vase. Tone Vase was much too polite.
There was one where it was Jimmy Song, was it? And then like they had to do tag team. And one of them would be like, all right, I'm out. Somebody else needs to come in.
Arthur Hayes was the one that famously kind of led to the arrest of all the BitMEX guys, which is pretty unprecedented because they were arrested for potentially not KYCing people enough. Banks don't get arrested for that at all. They maybe get a hand slap. These guys got arrested for improper KYC.
Well,
operating outside of the United States.
Oh, that's crazy. All like JP Morgan and all these Goldman Sachs, all these companies like, oh wait, you did all this fraudulent stuff. Well, just pay us a fine.
Yeah.
Just pay us a few $100 million. We're good. No. We took in a lot. We took in billions. Oh no. We just want a couple $100 million fine. That's all. So they're gonna be like, wait a second. There's some ROI in this fraud.
Someday crypto's going to get to that point. I think it almost got there with EOS. They raised $4 billion, and finally, when they realized they didn't do anything wrong, they kind of followed the rules. Well, we opened this investigation. We don't want to go empty-handed. What do you say, 24 million? Okay, sure.
Right.
Which is a common number, I believe, in Turpin's life, right? 24 million, wasn't that
good segue.
Yeah, wasn't that the number that
24.7 million is the amount of value that I had stolen from me when my AT&T phone was hacked by a gang of criminals.
So where are we at on that now? Because I know that there was a resolution, but
there's been no resolution so far. Well, the only resolution is, so there are 3 parties that I have or had active lawsuits against, and then of course there is a criminal trial. The criminal trial, only one person has been indicted. That's Nicholas Truglia. We also got a default judgment against him. He didn't defend the fact that he was, kind of on his own phone bragging about stealing 24 million the day it happened. When he was arrested for 6 other SIM swap crimes that were unrelated, and so he didn't contest it. So we have a RICO claim against him for 24 million, minus anything I've recovered, times 3.
which is not the same as a Puerto Rico claim.
Not the same as a Puerto Rico.
I want to ask you this: it was 24 million originally. What's the value of that now?
Irrelevant. The law
You got the math?
irrelevant. The law is because they didn't steal Bitcoin. They stole altcoins. And the point is that they converted to Bitcoin and sold it. And the value of Bitcoin at that time was 15,000, so it's worth about 4x. But I'm not legally allowed to make that argument, because then they would say, well, what was the value of the altcoin, and it's gone down since. So, but it's irrelevant. It's what.
We have an airplane flying over right now. It's okay. It's authentic. I mean, you were outside on your terrace, and this is Puerto Rico life.
It's the same airplane flying around. I think they're looking
just
for
to harass us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I heard there were 3 crypto guys together, so they wanted to see what we were up to. At any rate, no, the amount that I got from a California judge against Truglia was 24 million minus what I've collected, and again collected at the time, times 3 for RICO Act. My attorneys at Greenberg Glusker are great. They, most other attorneys I talked to said, well, you can't sue AT&T in court because your contract says you have to do arbitration. And my attorneys were like, no, this is a contract you had no say in writing, and it's like do this or not get a phone. And my lead attorney said I've made my career, busting contracts like that. So they didn't challenge the contract. They basically said, okay, this was. He actually, when he was a younger lawyer, was the guy who he busted up the Hollywood creative accounting system with Paramount Pictures, or Art Buchwald versus Paramount Pictures, when the Coming to America movie, which did almost 400 million, was like, oh well, it lost money, and that's because, of course, back then the fashion of the day was, well, we lost money because we had to pay $7,000 to rent this couch for a week from a company owned by the studio that paid $7,000 and rents it out 100 times.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, for those of you who are listening to Bad Crypto and you've been long-time listeners, you would know that I think episode like 31 or 32 of Bad Crypto, like really early on, I got SIM swapped also. So we're SIM swap, a SIM swap buddy.
Yeah, cheers. But not a club anybody willingly joins.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I did make a partial recovery. The 15-year-old was the ringleader, who were also
15-year-old ringleader.
15-year-old at the time. He's now 18. We waited till he was 18 to actually sue him after our private negotiations fell apart. He admitted guilt, and he paid me back $2 million in crypto, plus this lovely watch to be found under his mom's bed, and 6 figures of cash.
That's wild.
So that comes away from the amount that we claim.
It was so funny. It's like, so the dude who SIM swapped me, like, then logged into his iPhone, and then I had the where's my iPhone on, so I knew exactly where this guy lived. Yeah. So I called the Worth, Illinois police, and they were worthless. They didn't do anything, and I was like, oh man. So I just basically deleted his phone, and he was so pissed. And then he started DMing me on Twitter, and he's like, no, a public tweet. He goes, you better message me. You better unlock my phone now. Or I'm going to release all your stuff. Like, had a picture of like one of my old driver's license, because if they can get into your Google, then they can get all the photos that have been uploaded into Google. And it was just funny. And I was, and then because he goes. He was just trying to steal my Bitcoin, and he admitted that. And then I basically just went around. I had a friend of mine who was doing some dark web stuff. Figured out from this Twitter account, his other Twitter account, his Instagram account. So then I started just tweeting in pictures of him and his girlfriend kissing from Instagram.
Nice.
And he was freaking out, dude. He was like, "Oh, look, I apologize."
You got to fight back against these guys.
I apologize. I was just trying to steal your Bitcoin.
By the way, I mean. I was going to say, I learned that I was the Crusader when I was shown that somebody bought my NFT.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't even know I was the Crusader, but I guess I'm
inspired a hero, and we appreciate that. So here's my question: have you switched to Afani yet?
No, I haven't switched to Afani because there are other solutions that don't involve switching carriers to, I guess, Verizon that they have. It's one solution. I certainly know the founder very well. He asked me to endorse it, and I just didn't want to complicate my lawsuit against AT&T, saying, well, why did you have it then? Well, it didn't exist then. But, I'm expecting when we go to trial to have all sorts of BS thrown at me in a million directions to complicate the very simple thing that this would not have happened had AT&T had a policy that they knew they could go and, prevent this by simply covering passwords. And they knew that, this had happened before. I was not the first person to get SIM swapped.
Gross negligence.
And that's one of the 13 charges that we have. And so it's going to be a federal trial in Los Angeles with six-person jury.
Nice.
And so
Jury of your peers. That means we get to be there. We get to be on the jury. Where's
That guy's guilty.
June of 2022, hoping to have a lot of media coverage on that one.
Let's go ahead and swap back to Binance and BSC
Sure.
Starter then. Let's say
He's the Segway king, isn't he?
we're Let's go ahead and swap back to Binance and BSC
Sure.
Starter then. Let's say
He's the Segway king, isn't he?
we're a startup,
Yes.
right? We have an idea for a token. Like, how does somebody go through the process of getting onto the platform so that they
Sure.
can get the story out and get a vote?
So anybody can submit. Usually if you have an idea, it'd be nice to have a programmer involved who knows how to actually make a smart contract and audit it and things like that. So usually, I think the days of the one-man token are gone. I mean, there are teams now that put things together. And, you can see there's over 100 tokens that are out there, and it's then voted by a community of your peers, just like a trial. They're voted up and they're voted down.
But you have to be holding the start token vote. Right?
You do have to hold, and I know I should know these better. I think it's 20 to be able to buy in a lottery system, and it's 50 to be able to be guaranteed that you can get in. And considering the Star token right now is under $30, that's 1,500, gets you into everything. And not financial advice, but the average of the things that have gone out of the system have gone up between 10 and 30x.
Actually, just under 20 today. Come on, start going back up.
Yeah, but for people who don't have their start yet, they can get under $1,000. We'll get them. Let's see, under 20, $10,000.
$10,000.
That's right.
50.
Whoa, I need some more coffee.
each.
Yes.
Math.
Thanks.
Here for you.
Yeah. So 1,000. I thought it was 1,000 the first time. Yes. So, as opposed to Duck Dow Dime, that kind of started the model of like you needed to have a certain number of tokens to be able to get in. The top level at Duck Dow Dime now is like $100,000, and 1,000 will get you, sort of the lottery system, well over 1,000, and then 1,000 times 50, right? Will get you a guaranteed allotment. So for under $1,000, you get a guaranteed allotment, which usually is between like maybe 2 and 4 BNB, and you're able to go in with your guaranteed allotment, and I think they usually give you 15 minutes